With the pledge, I don't know where the flag is. Hidden
Behind
back
screen.
there. There it is. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I move to approve the agenda. Roll call.
Second.
Motion by Carlson, second by Anderson. Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
6 yes. Motion carries.
Okay, we have the Future Business Leaders of America.
Come on up, guys. Cheerleaders. This is just one of our recognitions. We appreciate them coming. Aria, yeah, come up, jump up here and tell us who you are and what you guys did this summer.
They made it home on time, is what they did. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm Steve Rennick. I'm the head advisor for FBLA.
I'm Maddie Retzi, and I am also an advisor.
I'm Olusegun Fajimi, and I was a member of FBLA.
I'm Taylor Combs, and I'm also a member of FBLA.
And we were at Orlando, Florida this year for our conference. Really hot and humid. If wearing business suits in July, not recommended. And then we had 3 people make the stage for nationals. Olu got 6th place in the nation in economics.
Wow.
And then Taylor got 9th place in healthcare administration.
Oh, let's go, healthcare.
And then our third person, Genevieve Coley, she is now in college. She actually was the national champ in Future Business Leader. So, yeah. But now she's on doing bigger and better things. I think she's pre-med at Pitt. So, yeah.
How is that arrived at? Do you do projects or presentations, or how do you do that?
It depends. They did tests. We have also people that do presentations, and then we have or a combo of 2. You could do a test that leads into like a case study. There's like 70 different events. So we brought about 30 people. So there was about 15,000 people at the conference. Wow. So it's very big, yeah. So we were very proud of the people that made the stage, and not everyone that went and put the time and effort into it. So it was a great time. So.
I've always learned to be very nice to students like this because I'm probably going to work for them at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
We all probably will. So hopefully your experience at Warren has been great and you did a great job.
All right. Thank you, board, for recognizing us. And
Congratulations.
yeah,
Sweating it out.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, committee reports. Superintendent's report?
Yeah, 2 things I just want to verbally recognize. We don't have student representatives this week. That's just because we're at the start of the school year, so we refresh our student representatives. We're sending out invitations to them this week. There's a few different ways they can be involved with what we call as superintendent representatives. They can be on the list to come to our board meetings if they sign up for that. We start off by trying to get them to come to 6 meetings to kind of split that up. Some of them can come more, some of them can come less, so they kind of work out that schedule. One option is for them to be on the school improvement team. The school improvement team is made up of a handful of administrators and staff members. At each campus, they have their own half of the school improvement team. It ends up being about 20 adults, and so we invite a freshman, sophomore, junior, and a senior to be on that school improvement team. They meet about 5 times a year to talk about how plans are going, plans for next year. And so asking them to be, or inviting them to be part of that is pretty cool. We do have students, one of the leadership opportunities is to run focus groups. So there's a handful of times during the year that we'll run focus groups to get student voice. We've tried different ways of doing that every year. I think this year we'll focus on doing those during lunch hours. That seemed to work best last year. Let's see, 2 new options that when they get the invitation this year, they'll see is an invitation to be on our diversity committee to try to formally get some students involved with the diversity committee efforts this year as we kind of ramp up and get the results of that audit. And we're going to play around possibly with having some social media ambassadors and involving students with some of our just different ways that we reach the community. So hopefully by the next time we meet as a board, we'll have some students to invite their opinions around, but also just wanted to keep you updated on the different ways that they can be involved here at Warren. The other thing that's under superintendent's report that we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on today, because you're seeing it today for the formally for the first time bound together, is our 10-year facility plan. For the most part, everything that's in that, the meat of that you saw in the winter. So the plans, the overall timeline, the general budget. When I'm looking at that, the magic number of about $4 million a year is what I keep in my mind. It's a little bit less or a little bit more in any given year, but we are in a healthier financial position thanks to the just the commitment of the community, which allows us to address deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance has been something that we've struggled with for many years because school boards have, I think, gratefully so. I'm grateful that they did. I think families are grateful that they did. Previous boards prioritized student services in the past, which is good. Hoping that at one day we'd be able to address some of the facility needs. And so we're in a little bit better financial position and we can address some of these facility needs. We're not doing it all at once. We're spreading it out over 10 years. The story I tell is my first week, I think, maybe it was my second week, but I think basically it was my first week here a few years ago at Eau Plaine. It was raining and we had buckets in the hallway catching the water. And Ms. Bertola kind of chuckled and said, "Welcome to Warren." But we're looking for a brighter future because just weeks before the referendum had passed.
Brighter or drier?
Both, less rain and.
They both sound similar, so.
So the roof work is an example of deferred maintenance that, if you understand our facility situation, it's hard to argue that we needed against needing to do that. And this gives us hopefully some predictability for the next 10 years. What's new in there is an executive summary that's new. And then generally every year in the fall to late fall, you should expect us to come with some type of update specifically for the next year, because as we look at big facility projects, we have to start making decisions around that in the late fall so that we can put out bids in the winter. So hopefully we'll have finance committee meetings usually around that time, so that we're talking about budgeting every fall for the next year. Part of that conversation is what are the facility needs that we have. Those are the types of updates that you'll see every year. There's a wish list in here that kind of, and if you look at the sections, there's a TBD. There's a lot of dates, specific dates for the 10-year facility plan, but then there's a section of TBD. And we call that it's kind of more like a wish list of this would be nice to have, it needs to happen depending on the given year and what we were able to pay for the last year and what we're planning on being able to pay for this year. We'll squeeze some of those things in, but they don't necessarily have a specific time. Larger projects we would talk about with the school board. I don't know how much discussion you want to have tonight, but I think at least we wanted to get this in front of you, give you some time to review it again, and then maybe next month or at the finance committee meeting we can talk about it some more. But want to make sure you had it, and really want to give a shout out to Chris for getting us over the finish line on this. So we started a couple years ago, but it's really important, I think, to the long-term sustainability of the school district. That's all I have for superintendent's report, unless you guys have other questions that you want to talk, or topics you want to talk about.
Anything else from the board? I see we have no FOIA requests, so that takes care of monthly reports. So with the consent agenda, I have to read this whole thing?
Do.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, which includes personnel recommendations per Exhibit A, numbers 18 through 26, as posted, and Exhibit B, athletics, activities, and volunteers, number B-3, as posted. The payment of the bills dated August 20th, 2024, in the amount of $3,844,595.70. The regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of July 30th, 2024. Speech services provider agreement with Denny Physical Therapy PC for the 2024-2025 school year. the intergovernmental agreements between Exceptional Learners Collaborative, ELC, and Warren Township High School District 121 for students 2025-01, 2025-02, 2025-03, 2025-04, 2025-05, and 2025-06, and the annual roster of hearing officers for fiscal year 2025. I make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Carlson, second by Anderson. Mr. Demonte,
Yes.
Mrs. Squires,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
So we can skip to discussion items, right? Okay, action items, approval of resolution 4. Let's see, I move to approve the resolution for preparation of the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
Discussion?
I think we do have a couple of things we want to walk through with you, if that's
Jason?
okay.
I just wanted to go over a few things about the budget. It's still a work in progress. I will continue to update the budget numbers regarding revenue from local and state agencies and district expenditures as those amounts become available. I am more confident in my revenue numbers than my expenditure numbers, but after the next few payrolls, when everything starts to firm up, I'll be able to fill those numbers in more completely. I did meet with all the district administrators who were responsible for their budgets, and after discussions with them, I used agreed-upon amounts to put into the budget. I don't know if you want me to talk about revenues and expenditures. There's plenty on there, but in September, I'll do a more thorough overlook at the budget. There were a couple questions that came across. One of the items, one of the budget lines just says teacher salaries, and it's a large dollar amount. It's about $4 million. I have changed the name of that account from teacher salaries to special ed teacher salaries because there's about 42 teachers in that budget line item. There was another question why we can't transfer money directly from working cash to capital improvements. We are following ISB guidelines on how to make the transfer, but I was in discussions with our attorney today about a resolution that the board will have to pass in order to make the transfer, and he said that he would look into the transfer guidelines a little bit more closely and get back to me. And then there was
Can I ask a follow-up?
Okay.
I was the one who asked that question.
Okay.
It sounds like it's some kind of rule that was made to avoid some kind of mismanagement or something like that. I was just trying to understand what would be the point of having a,
Yeah, so,
it's not obvious to you either?
no.
Okay,
I-
all right, okay, sure, that's fair.
When I read it, so ISB puts out this book, Mechanics
Yep.
of a School District Budget, and this is kind of like a guidebook for when you're putting a budget together, and that's
That's
what it
just one of
says in
the
the guidelines.
procedures.
That
Okay,
it's
I
gotta
got
go
you.
to ed, yeah.
Yep.
There was another question about how the budget line items are for revenue for taxes. So if it says the budget line item is current year, taxes are dispersed beginning in May, and from May until June 30th, any taxes that are collected in that period of time goes into current year taxes. Once July hits and we're into a new fiscal year, any tax money that's collected after that goes into prior year taxes. And then there's one more line that says, I believe it says prior or other years. And those are taxes that are collected, like back taxes, share of sales, those amounts, and they come in usually like in February. And they're small amounts usually, but that's what the prior, other year line is. So,
Other questions from anybody?
Yeah, maybe, Chris, could you just walk through what are, like when you're looking at the budget, what are the high item expenditures every year that are important for a school board member to know about?
So
What are we spending most of our money on?
most of our money is spent in salaries. Yep, and benefits, and that's, that's our business, so that's our, our paying our staff and our teachers, because kids are our business, and that's where we spend most of our money. We have upped the operations and maintenance budget quite a bit because we're doing more projects for deferred maintenance. And tuition, special ed tuition is another item that's a little bit higher. And trying to think, mostly it's salaries and benefits. It's about
Does the board have any questions on any of those items, since they're our largest items?
I mean, we are working on special ed as a longer range project to hopefully alleviate some of those tuition costs, I believe. I think that's part of our overarching plan.
Yes, part of the special education plan is to be more inclusive in our services, which should impact that long-term. It is a long-term
Yes,
approach.
understood. Yeah, I get that.
I just appreciated the budget summary chart to show I've seen it before. We've talked about it pre-referendum where money had to move from the capital to the blah, 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 blah. And this was very clear, so thank you for that presentation. What I can't explain in my head was on a piece of paper. So
Bisbee tries to confuse us as often
it's
as they can.
that simple, and yet she put it on paper and it was there, so
The
thank
blah,
you.
blah, blah, blah that gets you.
Yeah. So thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Motion by Carlson and second by Anderson. Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Okay, we have an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Gurnee. I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Gurnee and the WTHS Board of Education for a license to install and operate an antenna and associated equipment on and in the Heather Ridge Water Tower located at 5761 Manchester Avenue, Gurnee, Illinois.
Second.
Well, if we can paint a blue devil on it, that's it.
That was like a discussion once, wasn't it?
Any questions?
I
Or
love
I
it.
just painted the one on Dilly's Road.
But not the cartoon.
No, I like that new outline.
Good.
That's pretty cool.
The old one broke-
Modern.
The old one broke, or what?
Yeah, the old antenna, when we were doing the roof work, just needed replaced. After some of the roof work, we realized we just needed to replace that. So we could theoretically just put it where it's at right now, but when we talked to our consultant that does our radio work, he said it'd be better to be in a different location. One of the elementary feeder districts is using that, and so we're just modeling that agreement with the village. Appreciate
Better
the
communication with the buses is what I.
yeah, that's primarily communication with the buses, yeah. Appreciate the village's support on this one.
Without any further question, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Motion by Carlson, second by Martinez. Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
I now make my favorite motion. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Roll call?
Motion by Carlson, second by Martinez. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.